microphone. Hello, Lewis to comms. I've got you turned down on this end, so if we wouldn't mind getting a little microphone test coming from yourselves, you can put your mics live. I've got you turned down on this end. Just start microphone one, just a couple of levels, run into the team or anything, just so I can hear how those levels are sounding. Yep, that sounds good, thank you. And microphone two as well, please. Grand, that sounds good. Thanks for that, guys. Okay, we'll be live in about 8 minutes.
Carl away. What's up? DC, mate. Keep it on it? Aye, my phone's in that bag down there. Could you better down and get it for us, mate? Am I... Are we on or? I don't know. My phone's no switched on, so I don't know yet. It's plugged in the jacket, eh, mate? You know, you get plugged in, just put it on. Good chance it got, mate. Just at the steps here, mate. I know, man. Check Colin, it's Cam here. Go and check Lewis. Smash your stuff, mate. Thank you.
Cam-ups and commentators stand by just over a minute until titles, 30 seconds on titles. .30 seconds until titles. Okay, stand by all, 10 seconds. Okay, going to titles in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Titles all, 30 seconds. Stand by Colin, stand by Cam.
Good afternoon and welcome along to Goldenacre for round 7 of the FOSROC Super 6 Championship. And it's Heriot, and they'll be hoping to turn the tables on their city rivals and avenge their 26 points to 17 loss at Megatland at the beginning of the month. Both of these teams are separated by only a few points as we enter the final stages of the regular round of matches before the playoffs, and both sides will be thinking they're in with a chance of sneaking into those top 2 places. Not a lot separating these two teams, and Colin Gregor, who's alongside me this afternoon to absorb the action. This is a tough one to call.
Yeah, indeed, and obviously the fixture before, as you say, very close between Boroughmuir and Heriot, so whether Goldenacre home advantage for Heriot will be enough to right that wrong of earlier in the month and see them through to victory.
Yeah, it was obviously a tight battle in the game before, and Finn Gill, as the head coach of Heriot, bemoaned the fact that they feel they threw it away. So how important is home advantage in this game? Is, you know, they're both in the middle of the table. They'll be hoping to, you know, cut each other's throats here.
Yes, I think across all sport, home advantage is a really funny one, because there obviously is a psychological barrier to people playing away. I guess the flip side for Boroughmuir, that they've not had to travel very far. It's a cracking day. Meggetland is a relatively wide pitch. They've come to Goldenacre, which is pretty wide and open as well. So you kind of think, actually, and again, there's not, you know, a massive crowd that will be supporting Heriot, but yeah, so you think it should be fairly level pegging, but it never quite works out that way.
Yeah, there's a few interesting selections in both teams, but I echo your thoughts about the pitch. It looks in immaculate condition there. It looks like a good paddock for these players to run out on, so this will give us a little chance to look at the two teams before they enter the field of play. And we'll start with the home side, Heriot. And they made a few changes to the team following their win against Southern Knights in Melrose last Friday night. Leishman is unavailable this weekend, and that means the captain duties fall on standoff Bruce Houston, who has an ever-calming presence behind the scrum alongside the experienced Jed Gelder-Bloom. Additions of Hutchison and Davidson give Heriot's brains and brawn in midfield, and they'll be hoping to use that to good effect to release Scotland's 7 squad members, Godsmark and Picure, on the wings. In the forwards, Dan Gamble replaces Hugh McLaren at tight head, and the familiar pairing of Hastie and Sedak continues in the second row. The absence of Leishman means that there's a space to fill in the back row, and it's a welcomed return for Ian Wilson, who will be a force to be reckoned with in open play. It's certainly a very strong Heriot's team. It's pretty consistent. Is there any players there that catch your eye, Colin?
Well, the kind of Cammy Hutchison, obviously at Edinburgh, Matt Davidson involved with Scotland Sevens, the two wingers, as you say, former Sevens players, but Jack Mann at number 8 as well. Heard a lot of good things about him, so yeah, really looking forward to seeing how he fronts up today. And obviously Craig Kerry, the Boroughmuir captain's at open side, but the two of them going tete-a-tete could be quite a good watch this afternoon. Yeah,
I'm interested on your take on Jack Mann as the game unfolds. I think Heriot's utilise his strengths really, really well. But obviously the visitors, Boroughmuir Bears, they've been boosted by the introduction of no less than 3 Glasgow Warriors players. Mackay and McLean start at fullback and on the wing respectively, and there's also a return for Duncan Munn, who formed a very fruitful partnership with Robbie McCallum before the latter ventured down to London Scottish. Ronan Kerr will partner Munn in midfield, and he showed up very well in the defeat against Oxonians last time out. In the forwards, the final warrior is Gregor Brown, who packs down at number 8, and McGinley comes into the front row to replace the injured Marcus Goodwin. There's also a return for Craig Keddy, who will take over the duties as captain. And Boroughmuir Bears certainly do have a strong bench with the likes of Blythe Lafferty and McConnell, hoping to make an impact once they come onto the field of play. And also young Kerr Johnson, who made his debut last week in the defeat to Watsonians. But a lot promised from this young lad from Gala.
Yeah, and again an exciting Boroughmuir Bears team, especially with the wing fullback from Glasgow Warriors, Josh Mackay, returning from injury. Chance for Rufus McLean to get a run out, and obviously talked about Jack Mann and Craig Keddy in the back row, but yeah, Gregor Brown at Glasgow Warriors packing down at number 8 as well. So really interesting to just see how these guys adapt to the Super 6. Do they mark their kind of class on this? Do they the attitude that they bring to it, just because it should be with 3 professionals in the team, that should be a real big bonus to the Boroughmuir Bears.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously got the experience of the likes of Rufus McLean, who's certainly scorched a few turfs in his relatively young rugby career. But it's a good balance, you know. In terms of Boroughmuir, Finn Gillies, obviously the Heriot's head coach, did say that they got dragged into a kind of frenetic game at Meggetland, and it didn't play to Heriot's strengths. And how do Heriots go about this game in terms of trying to enforce their brand of rugby onto Boroughmuir?
It's a really interesting or good question as well, especially when it's as nice as it is in Edinburgh today. The pitch looking as good as it is, there's every kind of thought that you get excited, you get carried away, you want to throw the ball around. But yeah, it's for Heriot, it's having that discipline. Bruce Houston at fly half, Jed Gelder-Bloom, they do have a bit of experience, so it's about them. almost keeping a lid on things when a lid is required, sort of thing. But yeah, Stuart Edwards and Finn Gillies will want Heriots to play as well, but it's just maintaining that little bit of control as and when it's required, just so that they don't give too much loose ball to the likes of Rufus McLean and Josh Mackay, because if you do, then you could come quite quickly unstuck.
The loss of Leishman obviously for Heriot is somewhat softened by the return of Ian Wilson, but captain duties on Bruce Houston. He's a player obviously in a partnership agreement with Edinburgh, a player that's came over from Ireland, and he's played exceptionally well. A very good, I would say, a kind of old-fashioned 10, a pivot 10. You know, he's got a good boot, but he's a really good playmaker. You know, how important is he going to be against his opposite man, Jack Bergen?
Yeah, I think the fly halves are always going to be a really important part of the team. It does depend on which pack gets the ascendancy, who gets on the front foot, because Jack Bergen's a quality operator for Boroughmuir. But yeah, Bruce Houston, he's the kind of player as a fly half that just he gets other people into the game, and those around him will play well, sort of thing. And it's so important, especially when you've got the likes of Cammy Hutchison and Matt Davidson playing outside you. But for him to be able to pull the strings, it's so important that the forwards get on the front foot. And again, it is the classic, whoever wins the set piece battle, whoever has that dominance at contact, you expect that they're the team that's going to come out on top. Yeah, two teams, Heriots and Boroughmuir, in different guises obviously, of a very historic rivalry. Obviously two of the Edinburgh teams, along with what's known as the other franchise in the Super 6. Boroughmuir currently lead Heriots in the table by 3 points, but it's certainly really important with a double header essentially coming on later on for Ayrshire Bulls against the Southern Knights. That result could be really interesting in terms of where both of these teams that are going to be playing shortly end up on the table, as we do a little bit of eavesdropping onto the stand. A good seat there to watch over Goldenacre from the flats. Lovely late September sunny afternoon in Edinburgh. Why not just pop out onto your balcony and see how Heriots get on against their local rivals, or even better, get down to Goldenacre and grab yourself a burger and watch from the stands. Yeah,
definitely. It's certainly all laid out here at Goldenacre for what will be a really good battle between these two sides. No real excuses, the conditions are really good. You can see that flag there just fluttering ever so slightly at Goldenacre, but there's not a lot of wind. A bit of a chill in the air, as probably been illustrated by the fleece that gentleman is wearing. But it's going to be interesting between these two teams to see who's going to grab the victory, because it's certainly pivotal as Boroughmuir Bears come out of the sheds, led by their captain Craig Keddy. As I say, a few changes, certainly in the front row. Mark McGinley coming on there, you can see jogging onto the pitch as they're going to go through their final hit-ups before they enter the fray of the battle. And you can see Craig Keddy, he's going to be really important as well. He's been at Boroughmuir for a few years, and you can see just barking the orders in the blue scrum cap. It's always good to have a captain at back row. It's so vocal as Heriots come onto the field as well.
Yeah, having watched Craig Keddy a couple of times this year, he does enjoy the rough and tumble. He does set the tone physically, but also he builds a rapport with the referees. You can see him quite often trotting around the field just alongside the referee, and again it's just making sure that if you're picking up on anything at the breakdown, you just let the referee know. You try and you plant seeds in the referee's mind so that you can get a little bit of, or just decisions might start, I'm not saying that actually they're then more aware of, you're saying, they're holding on for a little bit longer on the ground, and suddenly the referee becomes aware of that. So yeah, important just how you use that leadership in a whole heap of different ways.
Yeah, the referee Johnny Perry, I'm about to get a play underway here at Goldenacre in round 7 of the FOSROC Super 6 Championship. And it's going to be Jack Bergen who's going to get play underway. Perriam just puts time on. A shrill of the whistle and a right-footed kick downfield from Bergen. And he's put it high in the sky and made it contestable there, but it's been flat back on the Heriot side. Very well gathered there by Fraser Hastie. And now Jed Gilderbloom just digging about in there with his boot to try and get a clean ball and kick it downfield. He's made some good ground with that, but it's been caught up in the slight wind, and it's been well gathered by Boroughmuir Bears. So they've got a good territorial advantage here from the kick-off, and try and get the ball through the hands, through Bergen. Now getting to the hands of Munn and Kerr. as it goes over to the stand side here, the Goldenacre and Boroughmuir looking to try and tease this defence. The first real carry there for Liam McConnell, who's been a breath of fresh air for this Boroughmuir Bears team. And the ball coming through the hands again, into the hands of Callum Rand, and he tried to use some deft footwork to unlock the Heriot's defence, but not doing this time. Bergen opting to use the big runners and eventually finds it into the hands of Callum Atkinson. But good work on the floor from Heriot's, and Boroughmuir, although they want to hit the ball, spread the ball wide, the Heriot's defence looks pretty strong. Yeah,
again, Boroughmuir will be happy with the first couple of phases, getting some width, getting Rufus McLean ball in hand early on. Great take from Josh Mackay, that first high ball. But then Heriot's recognising when there's opportunity to win the penalty. Their defence looked good throughout that passage, that whilst Boroughmuir were going quite wide with their attack, they weren't engaging the Heriot's defence or creating any sort of dog legs, any chink in that defence. You've got to credit that defence from the home side, rewarded with the penalty, just latching on at the breakdown when Boroughmuir just slightly isolated. And an excellent kick to touch and a really strong attacking position.
A brilliant kick to touch, and I would hedge my bets that you might find Ian Wilson at the tail of this driving maul, and you just see him there grabbing the ball, and he's been swarmed by the Boroughmuir Bears defensive guards round the set piece. And now Linus, he got 2 tries last weekend against the Southern Knights, and now Hutchison trying to pass it out the back to Houston, who does well to gather the ball, but he's under a whole world of pressure there from the on-rushing Boroughmuir Bears defence. Now Gelderbloom, he finds Scott, he manages to tip on a lovely ball to keep the momentum going in this phase of attack. And it's available there for Gelderbloom again through Wilson, and now Linus again has been asked to carry the ball into the heart of the Boroughmuir Bears defence. Scott again opting not to tip it on this time and go it alone. The supporting players are there for Heriot's. Now Houston out the back, Hutchison stays strong and kicks it downfield. It's ended up in the hands of Mackay. Boroughmuir look to try and break free from their own 22. Heriot's getting a little bit flat in attack there, just opting to kick the ball downfield.
It's good line speed from Boroughmuir, putting the backs of Heriot's under immediate pressure, rewarded with the loose kick and chance to either clear their lines or play from deep or win the penalty.
Yes, they've won the penalty there. Jack Mann, who was in there trying to make a nuisance of himself, just Johnny Penham just penalising the Heriot's number 8. And you know, from the attacking play there from Heriot's, when they kick downfield, Boroughmuir done well to clear that up, and that is probably the best result, is getting the penalty and you can kick downfield.
Yeah, absolutely, and both sides have had a chance to attack in the opening 3.5 minutes, and it's fair to say that the defences have been on top, which again, both coaches, you'd like that when you come out the changing sheds, have that real energy, that first, who's going to make that first hit, who's going to lead the defensive line speed. So yeah, so far defence has been on top, but the ball retention's been pretty good on the whole from both sides as well.
2 similar brands of rugby these teams play. They've got big robust backs, as you can see here from the maul, which is set up there. Boroughmuir doing well to get that back. The hands of Munn again, who, as I mentioned before, had a really good partnership with McCallum before he moved to London Scottish. And now the Bears again just probing at this Heriot's defence, their second venture into the Heriot's half, but the line speed from the Nails is pretty good, and it keeps the Boroughmuir Bears at bay. Bergen notices a little gap in the backfield there. It's been almost guddled by Procure, and it has been guddled by Procure as he tried to deal with that awkward bouncing ball. He just couldn't gather it, and from that penalty going downfield, it's been a pretty good territorial advantage here for the Bears.
Yeah, really good line out maul to start things off, and great recognition, just mixing the attack up, seeing that there is space in behind the Heriot's defence. Had identified both defences have been aggressive, have been on top, so yeah, good thinking from Jack Berg and the Boroughmuir fly half, just to ask a different question, put that little chip kick in, and then as you said, deal with the bouncing ball. It's always a nightmare in that situation when you've got the opposing team charging onto it, and Procure just couldn't quite gather it, knocks it on. So good reward from Boroughmuir from a bit of ambition and mixing things up.
Yeah, good game management from the Bears. It's a solid scrum there as well. These two teams almost cancelling each other out. You can see the pressure in that front row, and now it's spilled out, and it was almost a gap in defence from Duncan Munn. And now Bergen. He's managed to find Ram coming off his wing, looking for a little bit of work. It's always good to see a winger working hard off their wing. Now the Bears going through it. That's Craig Keddy. No, Craig Keddy's just there waiting, poised to carry this ball. He opted for the tip on there, but just never gave it. And the Bears looking to try and go through the phases, the structured phases, and try and manipulate this Heriot's defence. Now Mackay, he dances back in field, but he's been met with a stern Heriot's defence again. A couple of Heriot's players just wrapping him up.
It's like Boroughmuir have got an advantage, so I was going to say they have an opportunity to try and attack, but it comes to nothing. So they do come back for the infringement a couple of phases ago from the blue and white of Heriot's.
I always find it intriguing. Well, this is my exact point. I find it intriguing because we were watching the Southern Knights Heriot's game a couple of weekends ago, and nobody was going for the points. They were going for tries in very kickable positions. So it kind of shows you the magnitude of this game and how tight they are in the table, that all these points matter, and when they've got a good position, they want to try and go away with something. Yeah,
and interesting because it is a good attacking position that Boroughmuir were in there. Could easily have popped it into the corner. The line out before, they'd had an excellent line out maul. They'd made sort of 7, 8, 9 metres off it. So instead of getting a wee bit carried away, maybe in the first 7 minutes, actually, Craig Keddy, the captain, saying, "Let's get some points on the board," and it's over to Jack Bergen to make sure that does indeed happen.
The Boroughmuir fly half. Bergen to get the first points of this afternoon. 7.5 minutes in. Right-footed kicker. In pretty calm conditions here. It's a good solid connection there, and they're watching that glide over, but it's not went through the posts, so that's an opportunity. Went begging there for the Boroughmuir Bears. They cough up the 3 points.
Yep, it's always the right decision if you get the points, and then now they're thinking, oh, maybe should have gone to the corner and gone for the try, but the missed kick, it's likely that they'll regather possession from this restart from Heriot, so a chance to launch another attack.
Yeah, never really a bad option, but it's a good hefty kick there from Houston. And Mackay gathers well, and Ram yet again with the ball in hand. He's been pretty industrious in these opening stages, working hard off his wing as we said before. And now Bergen looking to put boot to ball, and this time again making a good connection. And this is a challenging kick that's been flat back on the Heriot side. They're going to have to act quickly here because Keddy has gathered the ball, but the referee Perium has brought that back. It was actually Liam McConnell that was gathered that ball.
Nice of the Boroughmuir Bears back row 6 and 7 both to be wearing the same blue scrum caps, just to really test, maybe a slight shade difference, but yeah. It was a great pickup from McConnell, in fairness to him as well, from the loose ball, but Boroughmuir had knocked it on, so it was to no avail. Yeah, Liam McConnell, he's a youngster in this Boroughmuir Bears team. He's an ex-James Gillespie High School student, but he's certainly a player with a lot of promise. Made his under-20s debut a day after his birthday, so he's certainly been playing at a very, very good level. He's got a really good skill set as well. And now Jack Mann, who's just snaffled round the side of the scrum, but the ball does come back on the Heriot side. And Gelderbloom again with his hands on the ball. He finds Hutchison. He's got the ball to Davidson, but he's again an infringement coming into play, and it's been a scrappy opening 10 minutes here between both of these teams, and they're both fighting on the floor, but they seem to be cancelling each other out. Yeah, and on that occasion we've seen a couple of penalties going in favour of the defensive team, but on that occasion it's the attacking team. Johnny Perham judging Boroughmuir not to have rolled away, which I think Craig Keddy was involved there, looked aghast at the decision, as you'd expect a back rower to do if it's made against you. It's another big, what a kick. That is an absolute beauty of a kick from Houston. And that's 2 occasions that it's maximum, isn't it? It's just right to the limit. He's just ghosted the ball above the Boroughmuir defenders on 2 occasions, and what an advantage that is for Heriot. Yeah, and you think the way that rugby is these days, that a line out maul 5 metres from the opposition line, that must be pretty good odds of coming away with a try, as long as you get the line out secure, which they just about managed.
Yeah, they've got good momentum here as well. You usually see the likes of Linus and Wilson packing down at the back, but the Heriot's forwards have done really well to get that back on their side. Wilson recycles himself and loiters round the fringes, looking to try and carry the ball forward. He's been overrun there by Dan Gamble, who took the ball forward, and Gelderblom now. He's got Sadak in support. And the Heriots players now going through the back. It's Linus again. 2 tries last weekend. Can he get another score on his tally? He can't on this occasion, but Ian Wilson returning to the side, gets over for a score. Mr. Consistent just ghosts in between the defenders from close range, and it's the opening score for Heriots.
Yeah, and well worked in the end as well. They run the same play. You see Hutchison going short on a decoy run. Linus comes round behind. He's well tackled, but again, it's that decoy runner there on that occasion. It's Matt Davidson, just gets in the Boroughmuir players' eye lines. They sit on their heels and hold for him, and that's all that the open side Ian Wilson needs to power through the half gap. So it's a well worked try. It's good to see a little bit of creativity, a little bit of variation when you're in and around the opposition try line, rather than just the pick and go or the one pass. How do you break the opposition down? On this occasion, Heriot's just with that decoy runner. It's just done enough to get Wilson over the line. Good score.
A very good score from Heriot's. You could see they were going very lateral when they were carrying the ball, in that line from Davidson, as you mentioned, just to check the Boroughmuir Bears defence and open up that gap for Ian Wilson. The conversion added there from this afternoon's captain, Bruce Houston, and gets his first points of this afternoon. Chucks his gum shield back in his mouth, ready to get play back underway as Bergen restarts play straight down the gullet of man. You have to keep an eye out for Jack Mann. He likes to loiter in between those 15 channels and uses pace and power to good use against the outside backs. And Gelderblom taking boot to ball, again making it a contestable kick for Heriots to try and chase, but again being well gathered by Josh Mackay. Boroughmuir fullback commanding the ball in the air there. Certainly under lock and key when he got that ball there. And now Munn spills the ball over at the far side. Now Rufus McLean looking to try and tiptoe his way through the Heriots defence. The first time we've really seen him in open space. Bergen finding a willing runner to try and carry the ball forward and get the tempo into this game. Good distribution from Swan. Now spilled over at this side to Mackay. Mackay looking to just take it forward, trying to go over the top of Pecure, but he's been again met well by the Heriots defence. Bergen distributing again there, but the Boroughmuir carrying player was met well by Linus, and Swan almost picks up a hole in the Heriots defence, but again he's been engulfed by the nails. And it's a sloppy pass there from Boroughmuir as they try to keep the momentum going in that game, and they've coughed up possession here. Houston now looking to try and test McLean. A right-footed kick downfield, and he's kicked the leather off that, and he's measured that inch perfect as it bounces out. And I think Bruce Houston perhaps thought the touchline there was a little bit closer, but that's an excellent kick from McLean.
It is indeed, and is it a 50-22? Not too sure. He may well have kicked that from inside his own half to make the put into the line out. Boroughmuir's, no, it looks like it landed, it went into touch just outside the 22, but still an excellent clearance kick. But again, Heriot's defence is really, really strong. They're just applying huge pressure, big physicality to the tackles, and the Boroughmuir attack as a result, they're just getting a little bit deeper each phase almost, and it just makes it easier for that Heriot's defence, makes it even harder for Boroughmuir to get any sort of go forward in their attack. So Heriot's defence winning out so far.
Yeah, the Heriot's defence is very robust and strong, and it's maybe testament to the fact that Boroughmuir have not really tested them so far. The only opportunity for Boroughmuir Bears so far was that missed penalty attempt from Bergen as Gelderblom kicks downfield. He finds touch as well, but that's going to go out in the full, so it's going to be a throw into the line out, and Boroughmuir Bears deep inside the Heriot's half.
Yeah, good pressure from Bears on Gelderblom there, just giving Heriots and their scrum half no easy out, and as a result it's the pressures led to a decent attacking position. Again, the importance of getting the set piece right. whether they set up the maul or give their backs a chance to launch an attack.
Yeah, Carmichael trying to throw to Atkinson, but Johnny Perry, I'm just noticing that's just drifted onto the outside shoulder. Squint throw there from Boroughmuir Bears, and they'll be disappointed with that. We've had this discussion in the last few weeks, and if a fly half misses touch or if a hooker throws in Squint, what's more criminal? But that's a good attacking position, and it's been a Squint throw. Yeah,
it's the frustration, and there'll be none more frustrated than Ian Carmichael, the Boroughmuir hooker who threw that in. But yeah, you just think it's a great position to launch the attack. He's almost maybe thinking about what's happening after the line out rather than just get the basics, get the execution spot on. As we have our little water break, which I hadn't appreciated that it was because water carriers are basically not allowed onto the field as much as they have been over the last couple of years. So as a compromise, there's a water break midway through each half. So yeah, it's not about, because I thought initially it was about the temperature and the hot weather, which is pushing it a little bit at the end of September in Scotland.
Yeah, I think 8 degrees in Edinburgh perhaps doesn't warrant a water break, but they get a time to just galvanise themselves and regroup, and I think Boroughmuir will certainly be looking to try and put a little bit of pressure on Heriots now that they've glugged on some water and recharged the batteries somewhat. The scrums certainly have been an area which has been keenly contested. They've almost cancelled each other out. McGinley, you can see this the close side of this scrum, replacing Goodwin, who was injured. He's certainly got a battle against that front row of Scott Linus and Dan Gamble. It's another solid scrum there as Boroughmuir look to turn the screw, but now big Jack Mann just powering through some challenges from the back of that scrum. Nicknamed the Manimal, so I think you can see why.
It's a great name as well.
It's a brilliant nickname. Mackay gathers that in the 22 and makes some good territory as he kicks downfield and just encroaches in the Heriots half. But Jack Mann's a player who perhaps has been a little bit quiet in this opening 16-17 minutes. We're used to seeing him in the open spaces, but Boroughmuir have had most of the ball. They've done most of the attacking.
They have, yeah, but whatever Jack Mann had in his water bottle at that little break worked. That was a great carry to get Heriots on the front foot, and now launching an attack a bit wider out through the backs.
Davidson looking to try and step his way through. Now into the hands of Dan King. He's been met by Callum Ram, who's been working hard in attack and also defence there. Sadak now carries, and Gilderbloom lays it on a platter for Houston, who gets a little shove for his efforts but manages to distribute well to set the platform in centre field, and Houston's got his skates on as it goes through the hands of Hutchison, who finds a rampage, and I think that was Davidson who just run that acute line back in field. Now looking to try and mix it up, now into the hands of the try scorer Ian Wilson. He just checks his run, now gets it to Mann in one of his favourite positions. Now Pecure looking to just dance back in field, gets a big shoulder onto Josh Mackay, and Mackay gets a second bite as Gilderbloom looks to keep the tempo up high. Fraser Hastie joins the attack now as the Boroughmuir player just not able to wiggle their way out from the breakdown quick enough for the liking of Johnny Perriam. And now Houston looking to go cross field. He's made a good connection with that, and it's went straight into the hands of Niall Godsmark, and he's in for a score. And that was, when you've got an advantage there, that was a perfect bit of play from Bruce Houston. Just noticed that he had a lot of part to play with, puts a pinpoint kick in, and it's just outstretched the Boroughmuir defence, and Pecure was there just to gather it and go in for a score.
Yeah, great execution in the end, and it's down this left hand side they make the yards, but look at that for a cross field kick, and Rufus McLean will not want to watch that back again. He's caught in no man's land, but it's partly because of the quality, the accuracy of that kick from Houston. Now Godsmark does really well to keep his width, and he just gambles that McLean's not getting that, and does well to take it. It's a difficult ball to take when you get that coming down over the defender, but look at that, no issues. Excellent take from Godsmark.
Yeah, brilliant take there from Godsmark as he managed just to check his run, and he gathered that expertly as he managed to just gauge what was going on there. Well worked, and you know that was from an attack. Heriot's going through the phases, looking to try and build some momentum, and did really well to get in an attacking position, and again that came from the run of the opposite wing, Godsmark, who managed to break free. Houston with a good connection. He doesn't miss many, and there's another one to add to the tally. He can kick from the most awkward positions here at Goldenacre, and he gets the extra 2 points, and Heriot's fully in command now.
Yeah, it's just clinical when they made it. I think that's the second foray into the Boroughmuir 22, and it was really good to see down this left-hand side, because you think Jack Mann in that position, is he just going to carry? But he recognises, actually give it to the pace outside him, use the hands, make even more yards. Boroughmuir encroach at the next breakdown because they're under such pressure, and then that kind of shot to nothing because they've got the advantage. Great execution, rewarded with the try.
Yeah, Jack Mann, they utilise him in the 15 channels really well. A bit different to like Stirling Wolves, who used Benedict Grant and Rudy Brown at Southern Knights. They use them in the tight channels. They like to get Jack Mann in the 15 channels to test these outside backs, but now Boroughmuir has spilled the ball at McLean, who's managed to compose himself now, bounces back in field, tried to break the first defensive tackle, but he's been well marshalled there by the Heriot's defence yet again. Now Bergen taking it to the line, and perhaps asked a little bit too much there to Jack Fisher. And Linus, the hooker, he's got the power of work so far as well in defence, and he's offered himself up to carry. Boroughmuir finding it really difficult to try and encroach on this Heriot's defence. Obviously the words from Finlay Gillies beforehand about the disappointment of their previous battle with their near neighbours has been ringing in their ears. Now Boroughmuir getting the ball through the hands. Ian Wilson looking to try and strip that ball for Heriot, but Boroughmuir have done well to gather that back, and eventually Heriot's through Jack Mann. I think he was maybe caught with his hand in the biscuit tin there, because Johnny Perriam not happy that was legal, and he gives the penalty to Boroughmuir.
Yeah, you can see the signal there from Johnny Perriam, the referee, that the ruck had been formed. So whilst Jack Mann thinks he can get onto the ball, he's actually in an illegal position to do so. And interesting again, Boroughmuir are opting to go for points rather than kicking to the corner, getting their line out maul going. 14-0 down. It's obviously by no means an insurmountable lead that they have to chase the game, so they're just thinking, let's get some points on the board.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting decision, straight in front of the sticks, and Bergen will be hoping to add the 3 points for Boroughmuir Bears, but yeah, perhaps an opportunity just to ask a few more questions of Heriot's, but we will have to wait and see what the outcome of this is going to be, as Bergen takes his time adjusting the ball and lining up the angle of attack with the right boot of his, the New Zealander who joined Boroughmuir Bears from Ampthill Rugby. He takes his time with setting up the kick. It certainly looks good from this angle there, but I think it's just tipped under the bar. It was accurate, but that's another miss from there. And you know, well, I would say that the fly halves are usually quite egomaniac, and I think he'll be disappointed that he's missed 2 penalties so far, and that'll be a blow to his confidence.
Yeah, it'll test the resilience of him as an individual. You could hear over the referee mic there, I think the Heriot's players saying short, so and because he did strike it well, Jack Bergen. It looked like a far cleaner strike than his first kick at goal, but neither successful.
And now Mackay with a casual approach to try and break this line. He manages just to bounce off one, look to get the offload in as well and keep the ball alive, but it came back on a Heriot side, and Gelderbloom manages to get the ball kicked downfield, and McLean has got to scamper back and try and gather this bobbling ball. Another strong right-footed kick from Rufus McLean, but it's travelling into touch, and obviously they'll give a bit of time for the injured player to get some attention. And obviously through the phases, one of the Boroughmuir players is taking a sore one and went to deck, but that's been a couple of good occasions where Rufus McLean, yes, he was maybe at fault for the second try for Heriot's, but in terms of work rate, he's kicked downfield pretty well. He's just not really had a chance with the ball in hand yet.
No, it's interesting in that sort of situation or scenario, and it shows a bit of maturity from Rufus McLean, because you kind of think, oh, I'm a winger, I've had the ball kicked over me, I've got a bit of space, I'll just run it back from there.
We can have a quick look at that last try.
He's thinking about the bigger picture, and thinking, actually, no, if I'm playing for Glasgow, this is what I need to do. And yeah, defensively he'll be a little bit disappointed with how he was caught out for the Heriot score, their second score. Just it's difficult as a winger when you're the last man on the end of the defensive line. You want to stay engaged. But then if the crossfield kicks goes in, you're the one that's got to cover that however long. It's good agility from the big Martin McGinley there.
Yeah, it's maybe a bit strenuous because he's back on the deck, but it'll probably give us a little chance to have a quick look at that try from the second try from Heriots, because they did have a good advantage playing, and when Houston did, because I think that's going to take a lot of tape to get round that ankle
that
there.
Tree trunk.
Yes, you can see the power here from the Heriot support, very good at getting there in attack, and it's just laid on a platter with the advantage from Johnny Perriam, and Houston's only got one job to do after that. Yeah,
well, but how accurate and how he does execute. Just seen the crossfield kick, and so Rufus McLean, he's quite narrow to start with because he has to be connected to the rest of the Boroughmuir defensive line, which means there's a lot of space for him to cover, and he's just unable to cover it. The execution of the kick is absolutely on the money from Bruce Houston. He'll be delighted with that. Also the recognition when they did have the advantage, they've got a couple of options. They can go for that crossfield because they know if they are unsuccessful they'll come back for the penalty. But when you execute it like that, you think, well, why not do that even when you don't have the penalty advantage?
Exactly. I think he's a brilliant kicker with the ball in hand. Bruce Houston, he's very accurate from the tee, but also when he's kicking an open field. I've been very, very impressed with Bruce Houston so far, and one of those players that certainly deserves is a partnership deal with Edinburgh Rugby, and that's exactly what this Super 6 platform is for. Now Boroughmuir, who managed to steal the line out, and it's I think a rampaging run there from Atkinson, who had the knees up. He managed to just break through a couple of challenges, and now the overlap's manipulated and Mackay bounces back in field. He perhaps had the option of Ram outside him. I think in hindsight he really wished he'd used them, and the ball goes through the hands of Jack Fisher. The call for offside from Boroughmuir Bears through the ref's mic. And now Munn, who's been welcomed back into the fold after Scotland under-20s duty. Ian Wilson making a nuisance of himself at the breakdown, just swatting away Rudy Swan, who manages just to gather himself and distribute again to McConnell, and it's now popped out there. It is Ian Wilson who manages to get the offload into Houston. Houston's found Hutchison, who's got a little bit of space down that side, and this is Harlem Globetrotter stuff now, as they're bobbing the ball over shoulders and trying to keep the ball alive, move the point of contact, but it's just been knocked on. But you can see how dangerous Heriots are on the counter-attack.
Yeah, again, great defence, recognition there that they can strip the ball away in that contact. The loose ball, it's fantastic offload from Ian Wilson, the open side for Heriots, just to keep the attack going. And then nice to see, I think, Bruce Houston and Cammy Hutchison working together down that narrow side. But in the end, it's maybe just one offload too many. They can't keep a hold of the ball, but they did make good yards, so it's definitely worth taking the attack on. Having a go at that counter attack, and had that last ball gone to hand, who knows what could have happened.
I think after 25 minutes in, Heriots will certainly be the happier of the two teams. They've really only had two attacking opportunities, and they've taken them both. And Boroughmuir had a few chances to capitalise on territory, and also from the tee as well, and they've not been able to get off the mark. It's another solid scrum between these two teams, and it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds throughout the duration of this game as replacements come onto the field. And now Swan, who's got his platform there to distribute the ball. And there's a knock on from Boroughmuir. They'll be disappointed with that, and I think that was a mixture of McConnell and McGinley in there. They cop up cheap territory, and it's just pressing the reset button again. It's just going to be a put into Heriots this time. Yeah,
just it's one of those where it looks like Boroughmuir, they're almost just playing that phase to get in a position to kick, and you think, well, why not have a bit more ambition? Why not have a crack at the Heriots defence? Maybe they're thinking over the first 26, 27 minutes that they've had absolutely no joy, so getting in positions to kick and try and apply pressure to Heriots, either through going contestable with high kicks or with the Boroughmuir Bears kick chase, might be a way to try and just shift the momentum and get themselves back into this game.
Yeah, they're certainly struggling to unlock the defence. They need something else. I feel that they're perhaps their big carriers are attacking a little bit too narrow. When they've got players like Kerr and Munn in midfield, and obviously Ram and McLean on the wings, they really need to try and suck in this Heriot's defence to provide the gaps for these players to exploit, but they've not been able to do that so far, and I think Heriots are certainly aware of the dangers that Boroughmuir Bears have in their backs.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right that Boroughmuir, when they have gone wide, they've not sort of shortened that Heriot's defensive line, and so Josh Mackay's had ball in hand a couple of times, but almost as soon as he gets it, the Heriot's defence is just drifting out to cover him, to make sure that he's got no space. He then has to step back on the inside, and he's swallowed up by this Heriot's defence.
Davidson, he's got King in support, who does well to gather the ball. He was under a whole world of pressure there, and Ian Wilson now just going in between the two Boroughmuir defenders, and well supported there by Picure. Heriots now conceding a little bit of territory, but they win the penalty, and Gilderblom look to go quick, but you would feel this might be an opportunity for the captain Houston to knock it over the sticks, and you can see his gum shield's already out, so I think that's perhaps going to be the option.
Craig Keddy, as all good captains do, disputing the call that went against him.
This guy here, he started off trying to come through, but he's just swung right round, got in the way of the ball, stopped 9k. Okay. You might have been okay.
The swinger, I felt like having it as well.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. It's 28.
Johnny Perry explaining his decision to Craig Keddy, the Boroughmuir Bears captain, which I said beforehand, Keddy does like to build a bit of a narrative with the referees during the game, but as referees, in fact I think 100% of the time they don't change their mind.
No, there's a language barrier there as well. He would be doing well to understand Craig Keddy's Gala accent. I think there's perhaps a little bit of a difference in languages there, but Keddy is a brilliant player. Obviously he's a very experienced campaigner. Obviously his younger brother Dean is a good rugby player in his own right as well, but he's still playing rugby down in Gala. And Craig Keddy leading this Boroughmuir Bears side, and at the moment they're up against it, and it's going to be Bruce Houston to try and stretch the lead for Heriots at Goldenacre. As we've got 10 minutes left in this first half, he gets another 3 points. It's Heriots 17, Boroughmuir Bears 0.
Yeah, you can tell with a kicker, as soon as that's off his foot, he's picking the tee up and running back to his own half. He knew that he'd struck that as clean as he struck the previous two conversions. Guaranteed points almost for Heriots when he's stepping up to kick off the tee, and that's exactly what Heriots want. When they're in and around the opposition 22, they're coming away with points. 3-score game for Boroughmuir Bears, who no shortage of industry and effort, but they've just, as you've identified, Dale, they've just not found a way to unlock this Heriots defence, to get on the front foot, to get behind the Heriots defence, to really stretch them and try to get almost near to their trialling.
I don't think I'd be unfair in saying that Heriots haven't actually really played too much rugby so far. And Boroughmuir have played most of the rugby. It's just the fact that Heriots have taken their chances when they've been available. Yeah,
the first try was from they won a penalty halfway sort of thing, wasn't it? It's a fantastic kick from Bruce Houston right into the corner. Then it's a couple of phases, and they're over the line just with a bit of physicality and a little bit of subtlety, just to ask a few questions of the Boroughmuir defence. And then one break down this left hand side, and then the pinpoint accuracy of the Bruce Houston crossfield kick, and it's a second try. And without as you say, they've not been sustained periods of pressure on the Boroughmuir try line, but from a Heriots point of view, they'll be delighted with the score.
Yeah, it's going to be Bergen to get play back underway, and I think echo those sentiments from Colin Gregor, because Heriots have only really been into the Boroughmuir Bears 22 on 3 or 4 occasions, and on 3 of them they've came away with points. You can see a replacement there, young Kerr Johnson coming on for Callum Ram. Contestable kick there, and Mackay is up like a salmon to gather that one. He did ride the challenge well. I think that was legal. There was claims of calls for a penalty, but he certainly was well contested. Been driven back in the challenge there. That's Sadak and Hasty linking up there in the defence for Heriots, as Boroughmuir to try and set that platform and give Swan a good phase there to kick downfield. It's been equally gathered well there by Dan King. from that box kick. It's such a skill on its own to be able to jump off the ground in a congested area and keep an eye on the ball and gather it cleanly. And it was almost a break there from Dan Gamble. He just squeezed through the gap there that was left in the Boroughmuir defence, but he was snaffled onto the ground, and it's been kicked down the throat of McLean again, and he's going to return it with another kick out of the field of play. And it's getting a little bit scrappy out there, but I don't think Heriot's will mind, because they've got 8 minutes until half time, and they'll be hoping to keep their visitors to 0 as they go down the tunnel.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. But as you said there, Dale, the quality of the fielding of the high balls in this game has been excellent, and from a Glasgow Warriors point of view, from Franco Smith's perspective, Josh Mackay's not had much opportunity, but he's doing the basics of gathering the high ball really, really well. The flip side of that there for Mike Blair and Edinburgh, Cammy Hutchison just taking his eyes off that ball. Just an unforced error knocking that on, so that'll be frustrating for Hutchison. Just a chance to get hands on ball and have a bit of a crack at that Boroughmuir defence. Comes to nothing.
Yeah, I think Hutchison and Davidson will be disappointed. They've not really had much of a chance to show their attacking qualities. They've been in the game in waves and fits.
Yeah, but I think defensively they've been very good, as have this entire Heriot's team. The line speed that they've been exerting, the pressure onto the Boroughmuir Bears attack, and when the Bears have tried to go wide, tried to get the ball to Duncan Munn or Ronan Kerr in the centre, the Heriot's defence, the Heriot's centres have shut them down quickly. Their tackles have been very, very effective, good physicality to that. So yes, whilst they've not had a chance with ball in hand, they've done everything that's been asked of them defensively.
Just one managing to get the ball out the back to McLean, and again Mackay's just dancing back in field and looking to try and weave his way out of trouble, but he's been engulfed by some Heriot's defence, and now Linus coming out of the traps there to look to nail his opposite man. He managed to read that tackle well, and Terry saying that there's an advantage there for Boroughmuir Bears, as this looks a little bit more dynamic from the Meggetland men. And the big towering second row just marauding into contact. It's been cuddled on the ground, but it's went back, and Bergen now getting the ball at the back to McLean, and Mackay floats the ball over to Kerr Johnson, a young 18-year-old. Looking to try and mix it up with some of the elder statesmen in this Heriot's team, but they're going to come back for the penalty, and that looked a little bit better from Boroughmuir.
Yep, no sooner have I said how strong Heriot's defensively have been in the midfield that Josh Mackay breaks through, but Heriot's do then get their scramble defence. They manage to snuff out the Boroughmuir threat, but at the cost of a penalty. And yeah, it's good to see Boroughmuir attacking down this right hand side, then getting the ball out over to the left. Good width on both occasions, and this time, having had 2 shots at goal from similar sort of kickable positions and missed them both, they've decided let's go all in and aim for the try and get themselves back into this game.
I think at 14-0 down, a kick to the sticks is probably warranted, but 17-0 down, just approaching half time, they've kind of got to roll the dice now, and it's going to be a throw in from Ian Carmichael to this line out, and he hits the tail. It's been gathered well there, but brought down.
Leave him.
The referee has judged that to be legal. Now Boroughmuir looking to pick and go round the corner. First time they've really had the ball in hand and so close to this Heriot's line. And the heavies all coming in now through McConnell. Taking his time at the back, looking to just go it alone, just snake his way over. But again, the Heriot's defence is strong now. McGinley looking to try and bounce his way over the line, but the ball has bobbled back. And then they get the ball down eventually, just sneaking over, and I think that's Rudy Swan who got the try there. The scrum half doing what all good scrum halves do, and notice when there's an opportunity, and he just squirms his way in between the Heriot's limbs and gets the ball onto the try line and gets that score.
The Boroughmuir Bears forwards, how on earth was it a back that ended up scoring that try? But they won't mind, because the important thing is that they have scored. They've been in position to get points on the board, and they've taken it.
I think the
good big carry from Martin McGinley there. I think he comes up just short, and then it's Rudy Swan. Good recognition. George Horn actually did something similar for Glasgow Warriors last night when in that position. Just get under the defence quickly, and when you're scoring bang under the posts, you'd expect your fly half to pop over the conversion, and Jack Bergen has duly done so.
Yeah, I think he'd welcome that it was straight in front of the sticks after missing a couple so far, but it's reward for the risk really in terms of kicking at the corner. Boroughmuir looking a little bit more composed and accurate in their attack and play, and managed to get that score.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, just actually on that occasion going to the corner, and they needed to get that next score. 17-0 down. If Heriot had scored again, it was a big ask for Boroughmuir, but getting that just before half time, they've got themselves back into this game.
That's been well fielded by Boroughmuir from the kick-off. Dan King just keeping it in field, or trying to keep it in field, but the flag has went up. A little conversation here between Perham and the assistant referee Samuel O'Neill, just to discuss whose throw into the line out it is, and they both agree it's going to be Heriot's through liners to throw into this line out. And Boroughmuir certainly looking a different team in this last 5 minutes that they did in the opening 32. You wonder if they'd opted to kick to the corner earlier on, and what this game could have been like for them. Now Bergen's found Munn. Munn's got it through the hands to Ronan Kerr, who just again dances back off his right foot and bounces straight off his left and straightens up his run. Now a big marauding run from the forwards, looking to try and puncture this Heriot's defence yet again. And Bergen noticing that the line's coming up quickly, and Rufus McLean almost getting some fingertips to that ball. He still had King to go round, but a man of his footwork probably would have made that a hard ask for Dan King, but they're certainly looking a little bit more inventive here from Boroughmuir Bears.
Yeah, a couple of errors creeping into Heriot's game. They overthrow at that line out, and just great work from Boroughmuir to get the ball to the width, and Ronan Kerr, incredible footwork that just got him through the Heriot's defensive line, gets Boroughmuir onto the front foot, and then lovely recognition from Bergen to put the little chip in for Rufus McLean, but execution just maybe a half yard out, so Heriots get away with that one.
Good take at the back of the line out there from Callum Anderson, who uses his tower to good effect to steal a couple of yards into this Boroughmuir defence. Gelderblom, he's had a good run of games in the Heriots team of late. Obviously he had a bit of time with Edinburgh as well, and he's managing to nail down a starting position here for Heriots to get that experience and game time that he so craves. Now Swan looking to just manipulate the ball at the back of this ruck again and try and get some territorial advantage for the Bears. Oh, and it's well watched there by Swan, because the pressure was on from Heriots, and he managed to gather the ball and keep it and still put the kick in, and Heriots now through Hutchison. Hutchison has found King, who's stabbed it downfield into the hands of Mackay, who returns it duly over the head of Gelderblom, who's got to watch this, bouncing about in his own 22. He's got some support there from Houston, and another right-footed kick downfield. Found Kerr Johnson. It's Rudy Swan actually who's found there. Bergen now spills the ball over to Rufus McLean, who gets the ball through the hands. That's a great tackle from Heriots as they try and thwart this Boroughmuir Bears attack. They've been penalised in the process, going off their feet, but good defensive work in the open play there, because that was a dangerous opportunity there for Boroughmuir.
Yeah, you think Heriots maybe look to kick the ball out, but they keep it in field. Boroughmuir go to the width. You do wonder, should Rufus McLean just throw the dummy in and go himself, but no, he looks to give it out to, I think it's Ronan Kerr that's linked up with him on the outside. But what about the defence from Heriots? A huge hit, but as is quite often the case, you then get energised by that. Your team pile in to try and secure that turnover, but just because of the intensity that they're going in, they just come off their feet. And so Johnny Perham, the referee, he decides that they've been penalised because they have come off their feet. And it gives Boroughmuir another cracking attacking position just to end this first half.
And definitely, it would certainly be a scoreline that half an hour in we would not have believed might be the case. But Keddy breaks from the back of the maul, and he finds Munn, who's been met with 3 Heriots defenders, and he just managed to get their own limbs and wrap round them. He's certainly a dangerous runner at 12. And Boroughmuir looking to try and use Keddy again. Keddy tips that one on. He manages to find the run of Callum Atkinson. Keddy, who's doing a power of work in these few phases, just sneaks a couple of yards yet again. Now Brown. He's been met again with some really aggressive Heriot's defence. There's no way through for the Glasgow Warriors, number 8. Atkinson again offering himself up for a carry. And Keddy yet again must be blowing because he's been involved in almost every second phase here so far. Acting as an auxiliary 9, now McGinley. And the penalty is coming the way of Boroughmuir Bears. So they've got a free ball to play with as Swan looks to put boot to ball and make this up. A contestable kick that Takir certainly had a look at on that far side. It was Godsmark who actually gathered that. But it's going to come back for the penalty, and it's going to be an interesting decision for Boroughmuir Bears. 17 points to 7 down with a penalty. What would you be doing?
I think, well, they have gone for the shot at goal. I think in that position to set the scrum and see when you've got Rufus McLean on one wing, you've got, well, in fact you've got Kerr Johnson's come on, the youngster on the other wing who looks dangerous. Got Josh Mackay at fullback. There's plenty of threat there and a lot of opportunity to attack, but they've taken the lower risk, lower reward outcome, but you'd very much expect Bergen to pop this one over, and yeah, I suppose it then becomes a one-score game.
Yeah, the Boroughmuir Bears managed to get themselves back into an attractive position as Bergen, his penalty brings proceedings to a close in this first half, and a game that was certainly going all the way of Heriot's as they raced into a 17-0 lead. Boroughmuir Bears have got their claws out now and they're starting to scrape their way back into this game, and at half time it's Heriot's at 17, Boroughmuir Bears 10. Well, during the week, Scottish Rugby have published its strategic approach to support rugby communities deliver a thriving and vibrant state school game over the next 6 years. Led by the Rugby Development Department, the strategy aims to increase the volume of rugby activity for school pupils in Scotland with great diversity of players, whilst also improving the quality of gameplay. The strategy also aims to provide stronger links to the club in both player and volunteer retention, and now we can find a little bit more about that, and after that we will dissect the first half.
Yeah, this is a really exciting opportunity for Scottish Rugby. We've decided to invest significant amounts into a new state school strategy, which is going to provide state school rugby officers to each of our regions and help really drive and deliver the game in schools. We know that the school landscape's changed considerably, and that we can help support schools better in terms of getting the rugby product out there, and to help support both attainment in schools as well as a great physical activity and sport for people to play. Yeah, we piloted a project in Dundee over the last 3 years, which has been really successful in terms of our ability to link our current development officer network and therefore clubs with schools in local areas, and through a school rugby officer to be able to help us deliver activities like this that are happening. They can be on Wednesdays, it doesn't have to be a Saturday, it doesn't have to start with 15 aside, full contact rugby, it can be touch, it can be cross-field touch, sevens and mixed. So it's a great way to get into the sport, and it's a great way for us to help support schools get in touch with local clubs as well, and for local clubs to integrate with schools. We've got a club development officer here who can show his face and then get kids along to activities on Saturdays and Sundays as well.
So year one, when I first arrived here, there was no rugby programme, so I started off fairly small, teaching kids just in after school clubs. This year I've now migrated into doing all the S1, S2 curriculum rugby with the staff here. I provide after school clubs 4 days a week for training. We're moving forward with a strength and conditioning programme for our S3-4 youths this year. We had no girls rugby here last year. I've now got about a dozen girls who are trying to play some school rugby as well, and then hopefully migrating all of them along to Hillfoots Rugby Club to play there as well. I've got quite a good number from last year have done that. So going forward, I hope that we can keep building the numbers playing the game. Quite a number of the boys that are playing this afternoon are kids that have just had curriculum rugby and nothing else. And you can see how much they're enjoying getting out here on the paddock and having a good run around with a rugby ball today. So hopefully we can keep building that, have more teams available, and in particular girls rugby.
I think it can only do
like the player pathway good, like as much boys and girls as we can get playing rugby at school. That's only got to help the game grow in Scotland, whether that be at Stirling County or Hillfoots or at Alloa Rugby Club. Getting more young boys, young girls playing rugby from schools is just going to help that grow and help the pathway further up the tree as well.
The partnership engagement with both Scottish Rugby Union and Hillfoots Rugby is essential to this being a success. The local coaches that we have engaged with, Murray, who works with us here at Alva Academy, he's infectious. His enthusiasm for the game of rugby and his unflinching determination that this is going to work is something to be admired. But with that, when you have the full backing of the Scottish Rugby Union behind that, when you see the interest, when you see the drive to sustain this, it gives you a feeling of something special is going to happen here. This doesn't feel like a short-term fix or something that's just going to be, you know, 1 year, 2 years. This feels like something that's going to sustain rugby along the Hillfoots for years to come. Lots of schools in Scotland will talk about living and breathing their school values. For me, rugby encapsulates an awful lot of what we do here. So our core values of creativity, of focus, of determination, that's all encapsulated in the game of rugby. So our young people, you can actually say to them, you're living and breathing our school values by participating in the teamwork, training hard, you know, getting focused for a game or getting focused for a training session. They can see it, they can live and breathe it, and you know, just being able to do that, it really gives them an ownership of not only our school values, but it gives a bit of a context as to why they're doing certain things. We've also committed,
stand by
yes,
one.
of course due to COVID, but for a number of other reasons, we want to create memories for young people that in 10, 20, 30 years time they will look back on and bump into each other in the street and say, do you remember that time we played?
Stand by,
do you remember that time we travelled to? And this is what this is all about. It's about creating memories that our young people will thoroughly enjoy and will never forget.
It's certainly brilliant to see that strategy come out during the week. It's I certainly played a lot of my rugby was enjoyed at Peebles High School, playing state school rugby in the Bell Lorry Cup as it was at the time, and it's certainly where stars are kind of the future can, you know, really set themselves up for a good career in rugby in years to come.
Yeah, and Alva, well, I was Balfron, so up in the kind of Stirling region, so we used to play against the likes of Alva and things, and it's good to get it involved in the school, and then it's how do the schools and the clubs work together to make sure that there's every opportunity for these young people when they're done with school, or if they want an avenue away from school to get into rugby, to stay in rugby. And even if it's not playing, it's looking at, well, how can you be a volunteer, whether it's a coach, get into refereeing, be the kit man. There's lots of opportunities to just be part of that team, and it's good to see Scottish Rugby putting a real focus on it.
Yeah, and one day they might be playing Super 6 rugby, and at half time here at Goldenacre it was at Heriot 17, Boroughmuir Bears 10, and it gives us a chance to look back on the first half action. And Boroughmuir done well initially to get the opening score. It was a bit of a tentative opening for both sides as they almost cancelled each other out, but a nice run here for Davidson checking the defence, and Wilson goes over for a score.
Yeah, almost a half of two halves, with Heriot starting by far the stronger, and as we see, just good carry from Linus just up into the guts and gets ball back. It's quick ball as well for Heriot. It's no interest in slowing it down, no interest in allowing the Boroughmuir defence to get set. Just keep shifting that point of contact, keep the defence on the back foot. And as you say, it's that decoy run you can see kind of coming across the front from Matt Davidson, the outside centre, which gave the space for Wilson to execute or to get over the line.
And then from a penalty advantage, Heriot's managed to stretch their lead. This pinpoint crossfield kick from Houston just managed to find Godsmark lurking on the touchline, and this was a bit of class from the Irish fly half.
Boom, boot onto ball, and in fairness to Godsmark, that's not an easy ball to take, coming over the arms of Rufus McLean, the Boroughmuir defender, gathers it, scores the try. But we needed this for the sake of the game, for Boroughmuir to score next, and it's the grunt work of the forwards, as so often is the way. It's the backs that are trying to steal the headlines.
Yeah, it's always good to see a scrum half just weaseling his way in after some good work from the forwards. You can see McGinley there just powering through, Craig Keddy in support, and Rudy Swan just doing the easiest of jobs in just evading Linus to get the try, the first points of the afternoon for Boroughmuir Bears, and it was certainly well worked. And from there, Boroughmuir Bears started to come alive a little bit in terms of, they really started to compete.
Yeah, they got themselves back into the game. They'd been, I think I mentioned that they were throwing everything at the Heriot's defence, but they were just getting no success. But as the half wore on, they started to get a bit more on the front foot. Maybe Heriot's fell off a couple of tackles. There were a couple of chinks in their defensive line that Boroughmuir could get through, could get on the front foot. They could build a bit of momentum. Obviously got the score. They then got a penalty right at the end of the half. So it's 17-10. It's strange because actually it's almost Boroughmuir that will be going into the sheds in a better place because of how they ended that half.
Yeah, they certainly had their tails up as Heriot's come back onto the field. The Boroughmuir finished the first half the brighter of the two teams, and it will be interesting to see how this game unfolds in the second half. We've already seen Kerr Johnson come off the bench for the Bears, but they've certainly got some good ball carriers like Brandon Sweet and Blythe Lafferty on the bench, and then obviously Heriots as well have got some match winners of their own. And they've got the likes of Ewan McLaren and Struan Sesford, who are two very, very useful front row players to come off the bench. And Bobby Kay had an excellent introduction to the game against the Southern Knights at the Greenyards, and he came off the bench and he made an absolute thumping tackle on Chalmers, and then scored what was the most unorthodox try I think I've ever seen, because it was a charge down off somebody's face and he just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
Yep, thank you for the assist for the straight off the face. But yeah, and that's the way of rugby these days, that yes, it's important how your starting 15 get on, but it's almost as important, if not more important, about the impact that your replacements have and how they can add intensity, add tempo, make that big hit, make the line break that can just shift the momentum, that can actually change how the overall outcome of the game.
Johnny Perriam getting play back underway, and it's Houston with the restart, and he puts it straight down the gullet again on McConnell, who's gathered that well under some pressure from the Heriots defence. And Swan again just using his studs on the bottom of his boots to guide that ball into a position where he can kick it downfield, and it's been well gathered by King, who spins away from a would-be challenge from Rufus McLean, who has two bites at him, but he's been supported well there by Craig Keddy. And they're holding up the Heriots fullback pretty well here, and Johnny Perriam's got a good eye on that, and Dan King had absolute nowhere to go once McLean had wrapped him round the waist, and big Craig Keddy came in and just got him round the shoulders, and that was it for the Heriots fullback. He was engulfed.
Yeah, the 1v1 standoff of King versus McLean, and then you've got Keddy coming in to make it not quite such a 1v1 anymore, and good defence, good kick chase from Rufus McLean, not giving Dan King, the Heriots fullback, an easy out, any easy yardage, and then Keddy following up and wrapping him up. And as we know, if you create that maul and the ball carrier can't get the ball back, then the opposition are the ones that get put into the scrum. So good defence from Boroughmuir.
Swan putting the ball into the scrum, and the pressure coming on up front, and you've got Brown just loitering at the back of that scrum there, picks it up one hand, and he's been met by Ian Wilson, and Jack Mann also getting off the scrum pretty quickly. And certainly the line speed from Heriots is something that was noted in the first half by you, Colin, in terms of the intensity of it, and they're going to have to try and do that again as Boroughmuir get the ball over into the channels and get a first run for, I think that's Kerr Johnson, who's managed to take that ball forward. Fortunately for Boroughmuir Bears, it's bobbled into their hands yet again, and it's open there, and that's great work on the floor from Heriots. They noticed the opportunity was there to snaffle the ball as all the clearing players from Boroughmuir just vacated the premises, and that was brilliant work there, and it was Fraser Hastie who got there and just swallowed up that ball, and Heriots win the penalty.
Yeah, just a good old-fashioned melee at the breakdown there. You think that the ball spurts out and Boroughmuir do well to get on the front foot, but then they're isolated at the back. I think it is Rory Swan who ended up carrying ball into contact, so because he is the scrum half, they're then slow to recognise he's not in place. Fraser Hastie latches onto the loose ball. Boroughmuir think they've got a chance to counter ruck, but they then do that illegally, coming off their feet, and that's why Heriots are the ones that win the penalty, or are rewarded with a penalty, and it's a good clearing kick again from Bruce Houston.
Yeah, another consistent kick from the Heriots captain this afternoon, obviously missing Rory Leishman through injury, and it's the fly half who's taken the the armband, if you will. Another accurate throw into the line out from Linus, and the Heriots players are pumping the legs and looking to try and get some momentum in this driving maul. It's still attached, and the referee's got a good look at that, but Gelderblom has found Hutchison on an acute angle, looking to just pounce into the heart of the Boroughmuir defence yet again. And now Wilson, he sets himself up as a playmaker, a very skillful back row player. Gamble now takes the ball forward. He's been met there by, it was a pretty good challenge from Jack Fisher. Now through the back there to Pecure. He's squirmed his way out of some trouble, but Boroughmuir looking to try and fight on the floor as Gelderblom goes against the grain through the hands. Now Houston has found Hutchison. Hutchison slowing play down slightly as he's not got a lot of options available either side of him. He looks to just steady the ship and set that platform up for Heriots to go again. And they do just that through Houston. He feigned to kick, but just got the ball through the hands. Heriots now conceding a little bit of territory, and Scott now carries the ball forward. The Heriots players are good in support, working in their packs of 3, making sure that if they take the ball into contact, they've got options either side, but they've got somebody who can take the ball forward. And a drop goal effort there from Houston, and he certainly won't want to watch that back, but it's now in the hands of Kerr Johnson, and he tried to palm off Michael Linus and break free from the 22, but he's been marshalled well there by the experienced hooker. And Swan now just issuing orders, and you do wonder about that call there for that drop kick. I think it was I do think it was pretty strange, but it was not very well executed by Bruce Houston, and he'll be disappointed with that.
It's you don't often see a drop kick in this day and age in rugby, and maybe it's reflective of the Boroughmuir defence that they were shutting down Heriots, as you said, Dale. They were pushing the Heriots attack back, but you feel just keep going through the phases. There's still got some dangerous runners in that Heriots team. You've got some big ball carriers as well. It just takes one missed tackle, one slight lack of discipline from the Boroughmuir Bears. It gets Heriots back on the front foot, but went for the drop goal, unsuccessful. But they've still got a good attacking position, because although they good defence from Boroughmuir Bears at that line out to
well up in the line out there from Boroughmuir Bears, and it was actually Bruce Houston who got the first drop goal in Super 6 in its inaugural campaign. He got the first 3-pointer from open field. He didn't replicate it there because it was a scruffy attempt at a drop goal.
Good use of the word scruffy there as well, I think. Yeah.
Now Swan kicks it in the air, and it's been flapped forward there by Boroughmuir Bears. And again, this game is getting a little bit scrappy in this opening 6 minutes. Neither team really getting through the phases and managing to go through their routines, and they're kind of playing into each other's hands slightly, and it's a bit of a stalemate in this opening 6 minutes.
Yeah, Boroughmuir can't clear their lines, and then Heriots get ball and can't keep a hold of ball, and then Boroughmuir can't clear their lines and Heriots can't keep a hold of ball, and yes, wash, rinse, repeat. So it's ended up with Boroughmuir getting onto the clearing kick from Swan, but knocking the ball on, and so it's having not been successful with a line out attack for Heriots, they've now got a chance to launch from scrum time.
Yeah, that photographer there won't be getting his steps up anytime soon, because we've had a few scrums in this second half. He's making his job a little bit easier of capturing the action here at Goldenacre. It's round 7 of the FOSROC Super 6 Championship. Watsonians beaten Stirling Wolves last night to consolidate their place at the top, and these two teams looking to try and keep a bit of pressure on Watsonians and the Ayrshire Bulls, but just guddled in midfield there by Gelderblom, who just kind of lost his bearings and couldn't gather the ball and get it through his hands, and he'll be disappointed with that. Yeah, just a set play off of the scrum as they look to try and test this Boroughmuir defence, and he coughs it up and gives the ball back to Boroughmuir.
Yeah, good ambition and intent from Heriot. Just the execution there. I think he's thinking about does he hit Matt Davidson on that short line, or does he look to use him as a decoy and feed the ball to Bruce Houston, and he's weighing up which option to do without thinking, actually I need to catch the ball first. Takes his eyes off the ball, knocks it on, so Boroughmuir don't have to worry about defending. They've just got to worry about getting a solid scrum and whether they clear their lines or look to launch an attack from their own half.
Boroughmuir, who finished the first half very brightly, they have not been able to build on that in these opening 8 minutes of the second half. But from the scrum, it's now Munt. He's got the ball through the hands there, into the hands of Kert. He does well to roll legally and keep the ball and get it back on the Boroughmuir Bears side yet again. Swan, he's found the willing runner of Jack Fisher. He's still going strong. I think that's Brown actually who's got the ball in hand. Did well to stay tall and power his legs through as the ball's fed back inside. And now Atkinson, he doesn't make much in the way of ground, but he sets the ball nicely for Swan to distribute again to Bergen. Bergen's found a big runner. And the Heriots defence again holding firm, getting there in numbers, orchestrating it, but it was almost a gap there for Craig Keddy to squeeze through, but he just couldn't gather the ball, and that's perhaps came from the pressure from the Heriots defence.
Yeah, again, Boroughmuir just looking to vary their attack, with Bergen looking for that inside ball back to Keddy, but yeah, Heriots recognise that, read that, get their defence in position and force the error from Boroughmuir. But good to see the Bears attacking from that scrum in their own half, making some yardage, getting through a few phases. Gregor Brown's carried well on a lot of occasions for Boroughmuir. Maybe not out in the open pastures, not getting big yardage each carry, but he's putting in a shift, that's for sure. The Glasgow Warriors number 8.
Yeah, he's perhaps been involved in more of the action other than his teammates Josh Mackay and Rufus McLean. They've been marshalled pretty well throughout the opening 50 minutes of this game. Certainly the Heriots defence, as we said, they've been alert to the dangers, as Johnny Perriam is just going to explain to the respective front rows what he's expecting at scrum time. But in terms of scrums, they've all been pretty fruitful in terms of, there's not been a lot of resets and they've cancelled each other out, so it's laid on quite a good attacking platform for the team putting in.
Yeah, it's a very good point that neither side has real ascendancy in the scrum, so we've not seen penalties or resets, as you say, which has allowed the game to flow a bit more rather than just get caught up in the drudgery of a reset scrum. As we saw from the last one, it gave Boroughmuir a chance to launch an attack. We saw Heriot's trying to launch an attack, the one before that, just coughing up an error. So again, it's a good position on this lovely day in Edinburgh to launch an attack.
Oh, Jack Mann, he just tried to get the ball from the back of that scrum and go on a big marauding run. A bit of a trademark of his. The only thing he forgot was to take the ball with him. He just dropped it at his feet and was perhaps thinking about the onrushing Boroughmuir defence more than protecting that ball. And he's a very, very good player, but Boroughmuir have kept him quiet as well.
He is furious with himself, isn't he? Saw a chance to really get the knees up and get a good leg drive, get Heriots on the front foot, or maybe even link with Jed Gelderblom outside him. But as you say, Dale forgot to take the ball with him, so from one scrum attack for Heriots, it quickly becomes a chance for Boroughmuir to see if they can do slightly better.
Yeah, just a reminder that in the 2nd of September, Boroughmuir Bears won their home fixture against Heriots 26 points to 17, and it's a game which has been etched on the mind of Finn Gillis for a few weeks now. He mentioned it at length before their win against Southern Knights, and it's a game that they feel that they should have and could have won, and they're certainly in a good position so far in this game. But Boroughmuir, I'm sure I'll still have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, just looking at Heriots 3 points behind Boroughmuir Bears in the table. Well, they've 4 points behind Ayrshire Bulls. So if Ayrshire Bulls, because it's this double header against Southern Knights today, so the game that's worth double points, if Ayrshire do become unstuck there, then there's a chance for Heriots to go into 2nd place if they get a win, a bonus point win today.
Yeah, there's obviously been a lot of conversation about that game, but the points on the board are what matters, and Boroughmuir and Heriots will be looking to put a bit of pressure on Ayrshire Bulls for that position in 2nd in the table. You'd feel Watsonians are going to continue rumbling on in the tail end, but Rufus McLean now has been shepherded well to try and work his way round, and now big Gregor Brown offloads in contact there. McFeet Smith was the big prop who was charging his way towards the Heriots defence, but Johnny Perriam has again awarded a penalty against Heriots, and in terms of discipline, Heriots are getting pretty scrappy.
Yeah, Jack Mann did really well there for Heriots to get on ball and secure the the turnover. Thought that was great defence, but Johnny Perriam saying that Josh Scott, the Heriot's loose head prop, hadn't rolled away, and that's what was stopping Boroughmuir from getting clean ball to keep their attack going. Seen Rufus McLean getting ball from left wing out on that right hand side, but he's well marshalled by Sam Pecure, and in the end McLean does well to stay in the field of play. As Boroughmuir come back in from that, that's where Jack Mann gets onto ball, but he's helped by the illegalities of his teammate Josh Scott in the eyes of Johnny Perriam anyway.
And you can see Elliot Young in your picture there with just to the left of Bruce Houston. He's just come on to the field of play, and perhaps replacing Michael Linus would be. I can't see him on the pitch, so there's a scrappy line out there from Boroughmuir. It's came back on the Heriot side.
Maybe that's why Boroughmuir haven't kicked to the corner in the first half. It's, when they had opportunities, we thought they kicked for goal instead. On that occasion they do kick to the corner, just overthrown, but it's a matter of inches this game on occasion.
Yeah, they'll be disappointed with that, and I think that's, it is so frustrating for a team when they've got good field position that a lot of teams don't really compete from 5, 6, 7 metres out. You really just have to hit your target, but Heriot's obviously making a nuisance of themselves and making it awkward for Boroughmuir Bears and trying to make a fist of it, but Boroughmuir just not able to capitalise on that field position.
And that might be why they've not kicked to the corner more, because they know that actually Heriots do have a good defensive line out, that they will apply pressure. So whereas you say you think just maybe about 70% accuracy and you'll get the line out back, actually against Heriots with this line out defence maybe it needs to be up 90-95%, and that's what Boroughmuir have just come unstuck.
We were praising the scrums just earlier, but that one is crumbled under the pressure from Boroughmuir as Fisher is Brown actually is just hoisted over the ruck there. Just another replacement as well as Josh Scott has been replaced by Struan Sesford. So a couple of replacements on the field, and sometimes you find that, like in terms of the scrum, I was trying to think ahead. Obviously the scrums have been cancelling each other out. There's a brand new front row for Heriot, and the first scrum that they get, it crumbled. They looked under a lot of pressure, and you can have parity in the scrum, but when you replace the players, sometimes it can play into the hands of the other team.
Yeah, and it's getting that balance of the freshness of the replacements versus being up at match speed and at match pace. And it's, well, I'm not speaking from experience, but for front rows to come off the bench and the first thing they do is to hit a scrum, it must be a big ask to get that physicality, that intensity straight off the bat. You think if you're starting a game, you don't start the game with a scrum. You do have a bit of a chance to get yourself into the game before the first scrum, but not if you're a replacement coming on in that situation. So yep, maybe now second scrum in for these guys, they're up to speed a bit more, and they'll be a bit more secure. Or Boroughmuir will fancy having another go at them.
Yeah, the only replacement in the forwards for Boroughmuir in terms on the front row is Mikey Jones, the contracted academy player. He's in the very colourful head guard this on the left hand side of the scrum. Well, certainly Boroughmuir are going to bring their front row replacements on a little bit later. Like I said, Blythe Lafferty still on the bench as well. And you can see that starting to pop slightly, and there's the pressure coming on there from Mikey Jones. And Mann has got to do the janitorial duties and sweep up at the back of that scrum under intense pressure from Boroughmuir Bears. And Heriot's now looking to set that exit strategy through Elliot Young, who took the ball forward there. And it's nicely presented for Jed Gelderblom, who's had a pretty productive game apart from that little error, and that's a kick that's been charged down, and it's been just touched just as it left the boot of Gelderblom, and it's now Boroughmuir who've got themselves a nice attacking opportunity here. It's now Fisher. He looks to go forward, he looks to try and test Davidson, and Swan gets round, and Bergen has got some runners there. If he can get the ball through the hands, Mackay just bouncing back in field. Again, perhaps had the option of Rufus McLean outside him. And now Craig Kerry looking to find a runner, and then he's been swallowed up by the Heriot's defence as Swan looks to try and keep the tempo. Some good footwork from McConnell, and testing and asking questions of this Heriot's defence. Done well to stay on his feet as well. And now Fisher again. Big tower in second row, has done a lot of carrying so far as Bergen finds Mackay. Mackay's looking to pin the lugs back and go, and he puts the ball out the back door, and McLean looks to try and use his footwork to evade the Heriot's defence, but not to be doing on that occasion. Again, Liam McConnell offering himself up for a carry. The same names appearing for the Boroughmuir Bears. And now Atkinson riding in very high, but bouncing off the first couple of challenges. And Boroughmuir Bears keeping the pressure on Heriots as we approach the hour mark here. They'll be looking to try and get another score and get in touching distance of their city rivals and keep that gap between them and the Super 6 table. And Jack Mann now being asked to defend round the fringes and in these tight areas, and Boroughmuir are doing well to stay composed and keep the ball in hand and go through the phases. And they're hunting in a pack there, and it looks like they've squeezed through, and it looks like the softest of tries in terms of a Heriot's point of view. They've been very, very strong. But it does look like Callum Atkinson has wormed his way over for a score. And that's when you want a big rangy second row striking pretty close to the try line, because he's used every inch of his, what is he, about 7.5 foot. He's managed just to evade the challenges and bob his way towards the line and outstretch that arm and get a score, and it's game on here.
Yeah, you're thinking how well Heriots are defending. Boroughmuir going through the phases, and their ball retention was excellent. The pick and go, just the one pass game, but it looked like Heriots had been comfortable with their defence, but then it's just one missed tackle, and that's all it takes when you're that close to the opposition try line. On this occasion, yeah, it's Big Atkinson. He just carries good aggression to it, recognises that he's up against maybe a smaller Heriot's defender.
I think it was Davidson in defence, wasn't it?
Is that right?
I think it was the outside centre who they just let him squirm through. And they'll be disappointed with that, because I think he tried to strip the ball in contact and just let his runner go, and he's went over for the score. And Bergen has got the chance to draw things level. Right-footed kick. Assistant referees keep their flags down, so Heriots retain their lead, 17 points to 15. And Bergen has certainly not had a good afternoon with the boot.
I think of the three that he's missed, that'll be the one that frustrates him most. Not only just because it gets Boroughmuir back on level pegging, but actually it's the most kickable of the three, as we have our 60-minute water break, which probably comes at a good time for Heriots. Just a chance to just regroup, say, well, okay, we've let Boroughmuir back into this game, so what are we going to do to reassert our dominance, get ourselves back down to the right end of the field, because a lot of this second half has been played in the Heriots half. Boroughmuir have got some good field position. They've just been building that pressure, and then they turn that pressure into points, just going through the phases, getting that one-pass game going. It's all to play for.
Yeah, you know, in terms of it's 17 points to 15, and at times both teams have cancelled each other out, but it is an intriguing game more than anything else. You know, there's not been any highlight reel moments for either side, but the intrigue and the game management from both sides is, you kind of need to be a little bit smarter, as opposed to relying solely on the skill of your players.
Yeah, there's been it's two teams that are pretty evenly matched, aren't they? And we're seeing that now in the scoreline as well. But a lot of the play, they have kind of cancelled each other out, and it's the Bruce Houston crossfield kick moment of magic, that something like that in these last 20 minutes might be enough to win this game.
Yeah, I did say there was no highlight reel moments, but that was pretty impressive from Bruce Houston, doing him a bit of a disservice there. You can see Sam Wallace, who's replaced Callum Anderson for Heriots. He made his debut in the last outing against the Southern Knights, and he set up a try for Takure. Gelderblom's been replaced as well by Ewan McCarra, the ex-bigger, now of Glasgow Hawks, the scrum half. Spent a little bit of time with the Ayrshire Bulls during the sprint season, but he's also another very promising youngster to come at the bigger rugby club, but that's been charged down. It's went straight down the gullet of another Boroughmuir Bears player, and they've now swallowed it up, but the ball's not getting away from the breakdown quickly, which takes a little bit of momentum out there as the Russian defence comes up relatively sharp, and it's kicked downfield from Boroughmuir Bears. Well marshalled by Davidson, but I think that perhaps is when out of the field of play, and Davidson's not had a good last couple of minutes.
Well, I think Boroughmuir were thinking it was a 50-22 because I think it was on that occasion, was it Duncan Munn that put boot to ball, but the breakdown had been in Heriot's half. The ball had then been passed back into the Boroughmuir half, so it didn't count as a 50-22. It was an excellent kick nonetheless from Duncan Munn, recognising where the space was, because Cammy Hutchison and the Heriot's defence were up in his face, so good recognition.
I think perhaps from our commentary position, I felt like Davidson perhaps carried that out. I thought it was going to be a put into the line out, a throw into the line out for Boroughmuir Bears, but it is to Heriot's and McCara. The box kicking downfield with the right boot and makes some good territory from an acute angle, just manages to get out of his own 22. And Boroughmuir, in the way that they ended the first half, are certainly looking the better of the two sides. Heriot's not able to get the ball in hand and launch anything for the last about 20 minutes.
Yeah, the accuracy of Heriot's game just deserted them a little bit. The line-outs, they've overthrown a couple. They won that last one, but not as cleanly as they would have liked. So they don't get the clear, or the clearance kick rather, as you know, far as they want up the pitch, and it gives Boroughmuir a chance to get right back on the front foot, which they're doing in rampaging style.
Yeah, it's a good play there from Boroughmuir as Bergen. He's found Johnson, who's got Mackay, who throws in the dummy and looks to go back in field again. It's been certainly a trademark of his, and it floats into the hands of Keddy, the captain for Boroughmuir Bears. And Boroughmuir doing well to steady the ship and keep the ball in hand as they look to come on the blind side, and Bergen's got some options outside him. He looks to try and use Rufus McLean, but he's been pounded there by Godsmark. A good defensive play there from the winger. Now Boroughmuir looking to try and maintain possession and try and pose some questions of this Heriot's defence, and they make some good yards there from the carry from Boroughmuir, but it looks like it could come back on their side, but the referee, the shrill of the whistle, signals that there's a penalty and it's went to Boroughmuir. And you would fancy Bergen to have a pop at this, but certainly confidence isn't one of his strengths at the moment.
Yeah, but this is a chance for Boroughmuir to go into the lead for obviously the first time this game. 17-0 down in the middle of the first half, so it's quite a comeback. Heriot's just getting on the wrong side of Johnny Perriam's whistle, making a few errors themselves that are just allowing Boroughmuir to build the pressure, to maintain field position. Heriot's struggling to get any chance to clear their lines, and Boroughmuir's game management's been really good. The actual ball retention when they've been in and around the Heriot's 22, building pressure, and it's leading to Heriot's coughing up penalties, and gives Bergen this chance to give Boroughmuir the lead.
Taking his time lining this one up. This would be as you say, the first time that Boroughmuir have managed to get their noses in front in this game, and in what is the business end of this fixture. 14 minutes left here at Goldenacre, and Bergen has the chance to get 3 points and take them a point ahead of Heriot's. And that's a solid right-footed kick, as easy as you like. He's not had a good afternoon with the boot, but I think it would be silly to doubt his capabilities to slot it over from there, and the penalty gives Boroughmuir the lead.
Yeah, and it would have been silly for Boroughmuir to think on that occasion to kick to the corner or go for a scrum. When you're 2 points behind and there's a 3 point gimme on offer, you might as well take it. And now it's over to Heriot's to see what their response is, because since about the 30-minute mark they've not really fired a shot.
Yeah, Heriot's will have to start getting the ball in hand and retaining it if they want to get anything from this game. They'll look at this as an opportunity, and it's right down the throat of Mann, who's going to just take it straight into the Boroughmuir defence. He breaks through the first challenge, he goes quite lateral but manages to break the first defender, and now Heriot's look to try and go. Getting the ball quickly away from the breakdown is one of their strengths, but Boroughmuir have managed to keep the ball in at the breakdown pretty well and slow the play down for Heriot. Now McCara. He's got some options on the far side as Heriot's look to just dance their way out of trouble. And again, just lobbing it onto the the shoulder of Fraser Hastie, who again offers himself up for a carry in Houston. He's got the marauding run there of Ewan McLaren, who started last week's game but starts this one on the bench, and it's well picked up off the outstretched arms there of Hutchison as the ball bobbles out of that phase. And now Ian Wilson, they got the opening try in this fixture. And Heriot's looking to try and stretch this Boroughmuir defence, but they're being well marshalled. The drift defence is well organised from the Boroughmuir Bears, but it's another good run there from McLaren. He's made some good yards with 2 carries in the last couple of minutes. McCara gets the ball away quickly from the base. He finds Davidson, and they look to try and keep the momentum going and keep the ball and the tempo high. McLaren now tipping on this time for Cessford, and he takes it forward, swallows up a couple of Boroughmuir defenders, and the penalty is coming. We've got another free ball to play with. And the referee, Johnny Perriam, does blow the whistle, and it's going to be a penalty to Heriot, and it'll be interesting to see what they do here.
Yeah, exactly the response that Finn Gillies would have wanted as the Heriot's coach. That's a great, as good as they've been in this second half, just getting through the phases. As you see some big carries from Ewan McLaren at the replacement prop in particular, but everyone getting involved. Matt Davidson, the outside centre, ball in hand more than we'd seen. Important pick up from Cammy Hutchison in the middle of it to keep the momentum to the attack, and with a chance to retake the lead, a kickable penalty. They've said no, we're going for the jugular. They've kicked to the corner.
Kyle Brown, number 22, is on for Heriot's as well. You can see him just tiptoeing his way just on the outside of Bruce Houston, but the driving maul now coming on from Heriot's. They've got pretty good momentum, but it's just splintered and shredded to pieces there under some Boroughmuir pressure, but it has come back on a Heriot's side, and it's a good carry there, and it looks like they almost got over the line. You've seen the outstretched arms there, and Struan Cessford believed he'd scored a try there for Heriot's, and they're inches away from the whitewash of Boroughmuir Bears, but the referee is saying that ball's not coming back, and it's going to be a put into the scrum for Heriot's.
Yeah, good last-ditch defence from Boroughmuir. That, yeah, as you say, Struan Cessford looked for all intents and purposes that he was over the line. The big left arm was reaching out to ground the ball, but Johnny Perriam and his assistants decide that he's not made it over the line, but the ball consequently is unplayable because it's on the ground. The attacking side keep a hold of possession, so yep, the job is by no means done for Boroughmuir. Still very much under the cosh.
Just in the background, the Watsonians women going through the warm-up. Obviously our commentary colleague Bruce Miller, head coach of Watsonians women, and putting them through their paces ahead of their fixture this afternoon. Obviously this is the early kick-off, the 1 PM kick-off in the FOSROC Super 6 Championship. We've still got Ayrshire Bulls versus the Southern Knights to come, and this one is finally poised. Only a point separating them in this fixture. There's 3 points at the moment separating them in the league. So a lot to play for in these final 9 minutes at Goldenacre. You can see the big 17 and 18 there. Cessford and McLaren have made an impact off the bench. They've carried very well in open play in the last 5 minutes and got Heriot's into a very attractive position on the field, and turning the tide against what's been a pretty accomplished Boroughmuir Bears performance from probably the half-hour mark.
Yeah, good character from Boroughmuir to come back into this game. 17-0 down early on, now leading with 10 minutes to play, 9 minutes to play.
Jack Mann breaking away from the back of that scrum there. He had Kyle Brown in some support, but it's going to be McCara who's just going to look at the pass to Ian Wilson. It's been flapped to ground, but the referee has deemed that as went back, so it's play on here at Goldenacre, and McCara's digging that out. He's passed it through the back, and they're just going closer and closer to that line, almost over there for Heriot. A good run there from Elliot Young. McCara's eagle-eyed at the back of that ruck there, and he just does find now Jack Mann. Jack Mann's under a lot of pressure there, and I think he's going to get the stone. He does well to get that back, and there's going to be another penalty coming. The referee has got a decision to make here, I feel, because that is in a very, very interesting position. But Heriot's done well through that man to get the ball back.
Yeah, big carry off the back of the scrum from him to start. Heriot's onto the front foot, and good defence from Boroughmuir. You think that that they're almost going to, or that Heriot's are going to get across the line, then Boroughmuir do infringe.
Jackman has been relatively quiet, but you think with some minutes to go, we might still have a big part to play in this game as they kick to the corner. And Heriots are going to look to see if they can use their weaponry of their driving maul. And the heavily strapped number 7 there of Ian Wilson. Don't be surprised to see him loitering at the back of a driving maul. First jobs first for Elliot Young. He needs to hit his target at this line out, and this is a lot of pressure for the young hooker.
It is indeed, and it's what decisions do Boroughmuir make as the defending team as well? Do they think, right, we're going to throw more pressure on him by putting a jumper or two up to try and snuff out the Heriots attack, or do they think, no, we'll just let them win it and we'll try and sack them all, or we'll just make sure that we do everything we can to stop that maul from crossing the line? But yep, for Elliot Young, he's just thinking, I know the call, I know what's happening, go through the execution of the skill.
He hits his jumper at the front. They've set up the maul well, and Elliot Young is just in front, just at the back of that maul. It's driving closer and closer towards that Boroughmuir Bears line. Has been driven forward, the touchline is there, but the referee has signalled that the ball has been grounded, and I think it is going to be Elliot Young, the man who threw into the line out. He is going to be the man who's getting the pats on the back at the end. He's going to be the man who gets the score, and that was good execution from Heriots, and we know how dangerous they are from 5 yards out.
Yeah, it's just excellent work, isn't it? Staying nice and controlled with their line out maul. It's first and foremost they win the line out, and then it's just trundling forward, and Boroughmuir desperately trying to get it to the touchline before it gets over the try line. But Heriot's in complete control. They know what they need to do. They know where they are on the pitch. Elliot Young at the back, just marshalling the forwards in front of him, as hookers so often do, and recognising or seeing the white line, and he can plunge his body over the line onto and score the try that gives Heriots the lead again. So yeah, what a finish we've got in store.
Yeah, still got 5 minutes left in this game, and for the life of me I don't know how Johnny Perriam could see that ball, because I was finding it very difficult from the camera angle that we have there. But it's going to be a conversion attempt from out wide from Bruce Houston. It certainly looks like it's got the distance, it's not got the accuracy. And it's 2 points, it's a 4-point game, so it's certainly going to make it a really intriguing finish to this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And a water break with 4.5 minutes to go. Just a chance for both teams to compose themselves, for Boroughmuir to think, how do they restart this ball, get hands back on ball, and you think they will have a chance to launch an attack. So will they have the clinical edge? Will they have the accuracy, the firepower to break down this Heriots defence, who they'll be all guns blazing to hold on to this 4-point lead? But
it's an interesting part though, because we've obviously got 5 minutes left, and Heriots do, you know, I could play into your mind. Do you go defensive? Do you try and retain the ball and, you know, and risk the fact that you're not being as adventurous? So, you know, it's there's still almost too long left in this game to keep it tight.
Yep.
So I think it gives us a little chance to see, obviously, our FOSROC player of the match, picked by you, Colin, Gregor, is the number 10, Bruce Houston.
Yeah, as you identified there earlier, Dale, there's not been many moments of magic in this game, but his crossfield kick was real quality, and it gave Heriots their second score, giving them a 14-point lead, which you maybe think at that point was going to be unassailable. But Boroughmuir have done really well to come back into it off the restart. They've now won themselves a penalty, but obviously 4 points out, kicking at goal's not going to be enough. So do they kick at goal and then try and get back in position and have another shot, or do they kick to the corner and go for the 5-pointer and take the lead? It's a big call.
It is a really big call. I personally would, I'd be thinking about going for the sticks and hoping that you get another opportunity, but they're obviously going to throw caution to the wind, and they're kicking to the corner. It's you can see the flag flapping about in the air there from the Samuel O'Neill, the assistant referee.
Bergen's gone quite safe for that kick as well. It's not right on the 5, it's maybe a sort of 10-11 metre metres out, so it's a big ask for the Boroughmuir forwards to trundle over from there, but they're definitely at the right end of the field.
Yeah, and they've done really well to retain the ball as they throw into the line out. You know, over this second half, they've been in very dangerous positions, and Blythe Lafferty is going to be the Uber driver at the back of the mall. He's trying to guide that forward and keep his head burrowed down as the legs are pumped forward from Boroughmuir, and they're trying to say to Heriot's, what you can do to us, we'll do to you, but it's been brought down to ground.
Illegally, I think Perriam's got his arm out for a Boroughmuir penalty.
Free ball here for Boroughmuir, and they cough it up as Mackay knocks on as he was drifting out wide and looking to try and test this Heriot's defence. So there's going to be another penalty, and I wonder if Murray Johnson's going to go quick. The replacement scrum half. He was over there like a scalded cat, but I think he's been told to calm down. And Bergen is going to kick to touch. And I think people listening will be thinking Simon Bergen looks well, but it's not Simon Bergen. It's obviously Jack Bergen, the New Zealand fly half.
Simon Bergen had a run out last week, didn't he?
Yeah,
in the Super 6.
Yeah, he was out yesterday evening as well. So it's another attacking opportunity here from Boroughmuir Bears, and they do that expertly, get it down from the top of that line out, and now they're looking to try and drive their way into the open field, down the blind side, and try and find that space in defence, but it's starting to splinter, and the Heriot's defence doing really well to keep that up, and you wonder whether the referee's going to have a keen look at this in terms of how that was defended. But you can see that Heriot's players just crouching down, trying to guard this position and protect this 4-point lead, because you would imagine a score now might be a pivotal moment in this game, as Ian Wilson is trying to get Blythe Lafferty off his ankle, and again defended really well. And the Heriot's players doing well to get round the corner, but Boroughmuir, they hold the advantage here. They've got the ball in hand, and providing they can protect it, it's going to be Heriot's doing all the defending. They're going round the corner again. Blythe Lafferty this time again. And now Boroughmuir Bears look to try and go against the grain. They thought there was an opportunity there for Brown. It looks like it's opened up. Can Boroughmuir spot the gap in defence? But it's been well defended yet again by Heriot. Another powerful defensive effort there. That was Ewan McCara, the young scrum half. And Heriot's getting over the line, and I think that might be over the whitewash. And Boroughmuir have got their noses in front at the death yet again. And I think that could be big Gregor Brown, who's got the score at the end there. And that's that's just an example of being patient and being composed and looking after the ball, and you get your just rewards at the end. Kick to the corner, be accurate, and they've squeezed over for a score which might be the winning try in this game.
Yeah, they've done really well. Great camera angle. Felt like we were almost part of the Heriot's defensive line there, alongside the men from Goldenacre, doing everything to try and keep this Boroughmuir attack out, but just the patience, as you say, Dale, just happy to just go with the one pass, the pick and go, trust that men like Gregor Brown have the physicality, the agility to get so low, to get the power through the legs. Got a bit of support from one or two of his forwards just to propel him over the line. When you're picking the player of the match, you take the gamble of which team are winning at the time. So I thought that Bruce Houston was the man for Heriot's, but if I had my time again, Gregor Brown was the man that I was going to pick for Boroughmuir. So unfortunately for him, I was summoned to make the call too early. Great kick from Jack Bergen.
I can second that, Colin, because I can see it on your scribbled down just in front of us that it was between those two players, but I think in terms of the game, Bruce Houston has had a monumental impact on the direction of Heriot's, and Gregor Brown has got the match-winning moment. I think it's perhaps a toss-up between either of them. I think either one would have been justified as the player of the match.
Yeah, and for Franco Smith, the Glasgow Warriors coach, he'll be delighted with how Gregor Brown's applied himself. Maybe not the frills. Oh, one last chance for Heriot's though. Yeah,
Ian Wilson managed just to flap that back, and it ended up into the hands of Ronan Sadak, the Polish international, and now big Struan Sesford looking to try and get the ball, and I think this is going to be a penalty, so this is going to be an interesting last minute or so here at Goldenacre as Wilson comes round the corner to carry the ball forward for Heriot's. They've got a free ball to play with as Ewan McCara spots a little gap in defence. Boroughmuir do well to close that quickly and look to snaffle that ball on the ground, but Heriot's do well to get that back. It's now in the hands of the Heriot's last try scorer, Elliot Young. McCarra does well to get himself back up, and it's into the hands of Fraser Hastie, and takes a clattering for his efforts, but it's going to come back for the penalty. And this is an interesting call here, because I don't think a draw does either of these teams any favours.
Nah, you'd be disappointed if you're settling for a draw, 3 points down with a chance to kick to the corner and go for the win. You think you might as well just go all in at this stage in the season when you're a couple of points behind the opponents in the table. You want to get above them. Houston, he's a bit conservative with his kick, but I said that about the Boroughmuir Bears effort, and they managed to get over the try line moments ago. So what a finish we've got.
Yeah, I think if there's a team that can waltz it in from about 20 metres, it's probably Heriots. They've got a very, very dynamic drive and malt. And Jordan Perry, I'm just taking a little bit of time off as Bergen gets some attention from the physios. Just as we enter the closing stages, obviously Boroughmuir just taking the lead with a Gregor Brown try, but they've conceded a penalty and Houston's kicked it to touch, and this is certainly in for a grandstand finish here, because the Heriots are champing at the bit to beat their city rivals.
It's all set for Bruce Houston to have a show and go, step off the right foot, go under the posts to win it for Heriots and justify his player of the match tag that I've given him.
No pressure to Bruce Houston. The influential skipper for this afternoon, obviously in the absence of Leishman. He's had a very good afternoon, and obviously the FOSROC Super 6 player of the match, and that will mean not a lot if he can't guide his team to victory. And Heriots do their first job there, and they hoist Fraser Hastie high into the Goldenacre sky, and they get the ball back, and now the momentum's coming on from Heriot. They look like they've got good head of steam. They're going towards the try line, and they bundle their way over, and Johnny Perry, I'm saying it's held up. He's spotted in the defensive effort there from Boroughmuir that it's been held up, and Boroughmuir hold on, and I think the referee perhaps has indicated that it's going to be a victory for Boroughmuir Bears. But what defensive work there from the Bears when it looked like Heriots had splintered their way through and got what would have been a match-winning score.
And it was Gregor Brown, the last man, being dragged up from his Boroughmuir teammates. I think it's him and Jerry Blythe Lafferty that looked like they got under the runaway Heriots maul, which unbelievable that they didn't get the try at the end. Fair play, Boroughmuir Bears. That's quite the finish.
Yeah, and it's always nice to see when they're trying to knock lumps into each other, and shortly after, about 10 seconds later, they're all shaking hands. But it was certainly a frenetic finish here at Goldenacre, and it is Boroughmuir Bears who hold on for the victory. It could have been Heriots, but they just got held up in the dying embers of the game, and it finishes here. Heriots Rugby 22, Boroughmuir Bears 25. Certainly a brilliant finish there, Colin. In terms of that game, it really did spark into life, and you said at half time when we were off air, you said it needed that Boroughmuir try, and boy did it, and they grew into the game after that, but they've held on, and you mentioned their character, how spirited it was, but even at the end to hold on, get themselves in that position to hold up that try, it's hard to argue that they're worthy winners.
Yeah, if you're Finn Gilly, Stuart Edwards, or any of the Heriots players or coaches or management, you probably think that the game didn't need Boroughmuir to score that try. But yeah, for us neutrals, for the event, it definitely did, and it buoyed Boroughmuir, and the way they took it to Heriots in that second half was outstanding. Heriots, just a couple of key errors crept into their game. They couldn't get back into it, and once the momentum was with Boroughmuir, it was there until the 78th minute or thereabouts, and then Heriots at the end, you think, oh, do they have a chance? But the last ditch defence from Boroughmuir, which when we see how the game started, you wouldn't have thought Boroughmuir were going to be winning. Yeah, definitely. I think that the Heriots were very impressive in the opening half hour, but then since then it was all Boroughmuir, and it was Heriots who got the game off to a very good start in terms of what they got a 17-0 lead, which was then closed, and at half time it was 17 points to 10 going down the tunnel. And when they came out after half time, it was Boroughmuir who got the first score, and you can see here the Boroughmuir pack just trying to edge their way closer to the line, protect that ball, and it was the towering Atkinson, who I thought was impressive all afternoon, just managed to squeeze through a weak defensive effort from Davidson and stretch his arm over the line and get the score. Yeah, and in hindsight, Heriots will look at how do they make sure that actually some of their bigger forwards are matching up defensively against the Boroughmuir Bears forwards rather than leaving it to your outside centre to be in that sort of second position defensively, where it becomes all too easy for Callum Atkinson to get over the line. But the pressure, the phases Boroughmuir had gone through to get to that situation, that's what did the damage. It stretched Heriot's defence. The big guys weren't in position defensively because of what they'd had to deal with in the phases before that, as Bergen then popped over a penalty as well, didn't he? 18-17 at that point, as the scoreboard shows that we can see behind the posts, and Heriot's get right back into it though.
Yeah, it was the replacement hooker, Elliot Young, who hit his target on the line out, and you can see Bobby Kay rushing in there just congratulating his teammates, and from there you thought that Heriots would probably, although they'd suffered a little fright, you thought they were going to then command the game again and go on. They had a 22-18 lead now from this try from the replacement hooker, but it wasn't to be, because Heriots, although they worked hard in the maul to get there, they were in for a fright in the closing stages of the game.
Yeah, they just couldn't get another score to stretch it away from, to make it more than that one score game. So Boroughmuir are thinking that they're still in it, even as we see just how accurate Heriots are. Finn Gillies, a former hooker, he's going to have those forwards well drilled when it comes to line out, when it comes to line out maul, and even though they're so close to the touchline, they don't panic. They get themselves into that good position. Unfortunately, right on that touchline, Bruce Houston couldn't add the 2 points, couldn't add the extras, and moments later we're down the other end, and Boroughmuir are again just showing calm composure, just thinking, right, we'll just go with the forwards, we'll just keep it tight, we'll trust that we've got the power, the physicality, and their Glasgow pro that's been released for the afternoon, Gregor Brown, he's the one that gets in a great position, gets himself really, really low, but as you see when he gets ball, he's then got support. It's great head on the backside support from his teammate, and then when you're that close, when you're that powerful, you get in that good a position, it's difficult to stop.
Definitely Gregor Brown getting really low. I think that was the takeaway from that, but that came after a succession of ill discipline from Heriot, who managed to get they conceded a couple of penalties, and then here, when it looked like they were going to just escape with a victory, it was a driving maul from some Boroughmuir ill discipline, but it was held up just over the try line, as you can see Johnny Perriam signalling that, and the players all then introducing themselves and exchanging phone numbers after the driving maul. But it's really impressive, and from both sides. It was an impressive attacking maul. You can see how well constructed it is there. They bring it down, they're cohesive, they get the drive, you can see the feet just champing at the bit to get over. But then when they get the momentum, look at the defensive effort coming in there from Boroughmuir, and Blythe Lafferty gets himself in a really good position. Yeah,
it's fantastic. You sometimes think when a line-out maul almost splits away and goes too quickly, that the forwards you almost lose control of that, and I think that's exactly what we saw. And Jerry Blythe Lafferty, the replacement hooker for Boroughmuir, does incredibly well to get himself under that Heriot's maul and deny them the try. And obviously there was no disputing it from Heriot's. They were comfortable, obviously disappointed, but they knew that Johnny Perriam had made the right decision, and that'll be a happy Boroughmuir huddle right now.
Yeah, I think they'll be very chuffed, and they go into the last three games of the season. They're all at Meggetland, so anything can happen, because they're going to play Stirling Wolves next, which will be an interesting fixture in itself. Stirling Wolves obviously not getting off the board yet in terms of points, but they look to it looks like they're starting to play a little bit better. But then Boroughmuir are going to finish it with a home game against Watsonians and then the Ayrshire Bulls. So if they want to be in those top two places, they've got three big games coming up.
Yeah, and I think against two of the top two. So if it is the case that you want to be in the top two, you're going to have to beat one or both of the current incumbents of the top two positions to get there. But the way they've managed to get through that game from a 17-point deficit in that first half, that will give them massive heart. They'll know that there's plenty they can work on from that as well. I guess the flip side is that Josh Mackay, Rufus McLean, Gregor Brown, the Glasgow Warriors professionals, they might not always have access to them, but it's a 15-man, it's a 23-man game, so that the rest of that team can take great heart from that, and those guys coming in to fill their shoes, they can say, well, actually, yeah, I am filling these shoes, I am worthy of this opportunity to start the game for Boroughmuir.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great platform, and it'll be disappointed the captain there. You're going to see obviously the vice captain Ian Wilson there alongside Bruce Houston, but he had a very good afternoon with the boot. He guided his team well. He'll be gutted to end up on the losing side.
Yeah, you thought that, especially in that first half hour, that Heriot's, well, maybe they thought they'd done enough, and Houston was really pivotal to that. And then the little bits that they did in the second half, again, just that fly half, he was just controlling the game. He was very tidy, accurate with his kicking game as well. That one moment of magic in the first half, the cross-field kick. But for him, alas, it was not to be.
If it makes you feel any better, one of the games I done, I gave Bruce Houston the man of the match for he got a halfway line penalty, and it was brilliant, and they were a couple of points ahead and they lost it at the death. So it's not the first time he's got man of the match. And
he's the curse then, is he?
Yes, exactly. I think I am. But it was a fixture which had a lot of ramifications in terms of the Super 6 Championship table, and it does put a little bit of daylight between Boroughmuir and Heriot. We've obviously got Ayrshire Bulls and Southern Knights kicking off at 5 o'clock this evening, and that's a double header essentially, where it's worth double points due to the congestion over the last 2 weeks in terms of what's been going on in the UK over the last couple of weeks. But certainly it looks good for Boroughmuir Bears. They didn't have a too successful sprint campaign, and you can see there the 25 points to 22 victory. It puts them in second place, and Ayrshire Bulls, it's over to them now to get the win against the Knights.
Exactly, yeah, and we're talking at the beginning about home advantage, but you see that, and obviously it means absolutely nothing in Super 6, although Ayrshire Bulls will be hoping that going down to Millbrae is a totally different proposition for the Southern Knights, and they can make sure that they get the kind of 8 to 10 points on offer because of the fact that it is this double header, get themselves back into second place and make sure that Watsonians are not running away with it at the top of the table.
Well, it was an eventful game here at Goldenacre, but it is Boroughmuir Bears who win in the end, 25 points to 22. They get the double over the Nails, and they consolidate their place towards the upper echelons of the Super 6 table. We do have Ayrshire Bulls versus Southern Knights coming on later on at 5 o'clock, so join us back for that game as we continue round 7 of the FOSROC Super 6 Championship.